You're walking down the same street you always take, same sidewalk, same time, and yet, there it is again. That dog. It doesn't bark. It doesn't run away. It just follows, quietly, like it knows you, like it's waiting for something. At first, you brush it off, but then it happens again. Another day, another street, same dog, same gaze. Most people would say it's just a stray, a coincidence. But deep down, you feel it. That pull, that strange connection. It's as if the dog knows something you don't. This is not just a coincidence. This is a spiritual message. Padre Pio, one of the most revered mystics of the Catholic Church, believed that the divine speaks to us through signs, subtle ones. And animals, especially dogs, were among those signs. Today, we're going to uncover the hidden meaning behind this recurring presence. Why dogs might follow certain people, and what message heaven might be sending you. Because once you understand this, you'll never look at that silent stare the same way again. Not everything we experience belongs to the visible world. There are layers to this life, realms of light and shadow, that most people never notice. But animals, they do. Especially dogs. They bark at corners where no one stands. They growl at there. They refuse to enter certain rooms. And sometimes, they follow someone without reason, like they've been given a silent mission. It's not superstition. It's sensitivity. Dogs have senses that go beyond hearing and smell. They feel presence, and in many ancient traditions, they're known as guardians between worlds. In the Bible, dogs are rarely center stage, but in Christian mysticism, they appear as watchers. In folklore across Europe and South America, they're said to sense death, smell spirits, or protect their owners from evil. Padre Pio himself believed in the spiritual sensitivity of animals. He once remarked that some dogs seem to react to what we cannot see, but what heaven reveals to them. To him, it wasn't absurd, it was sacred. When a dog follows you again and again, it could mean many things. Maybe something is trying to get close to you, and the dog knows it. Maybe something is trying to protect you, and the dog has been sent. Think back. Have you ever felt like something was watching over you? Have you ever noticed that a dog appeared at just the right moment? Some people believe dogs absorb energy. They stand between us and spiritual interference. In a world full of unseen battles, perhaps this animal is not just following you. It's walking ahead of something else. If a dog keeps showing up in your path, you must ask yourself, what is it seeing that I can't? Because in the quiet loyalty of a dog, there may be a loud, divine warning whispering through the silence. There are stories, more than people realize, of dogs appearing in the lives of strangers and saving them. A woman once shared that, while walking home late at night, a stray dog began to follow her. She was afraid, tried to chase it away, but it stayed close. Moments later, a man stepped out from behind a wall, clearly waiting. The dog barked, lunged, and didn't stop until the man fled. She never saw the dog again. Coincidence? Or something more? Many spiritual traditions describe animals, especially dogs, as intercessors, beings that stand in the gap between danger and the soul. Padre Pio often spoke about unseen battles. He said that the spiritual realm is not far above us. It walks beside us. Sometimes those battles reach too close. Sometimes protection must take a form we trust. And what creature is more trusted than a loyal dog? Throughout history, they've been warriors, healers, companions. In ancient Egypt, dogs were buried with their owners to guard them in the afterlife. In Celtic lore, they were guides through the land of the dead. In Christian tales, they appear alongside saints and hermits, sometimes unnamed, but always present. So when a dog follows you without cause, when it waits outside your door, when it looks into your eyes like it knows something, it may be fulfilling a purpose you haven't yet understood. Maybe it's not your dog, but maybe you're its mission. Some believe God assigns guardians to the vulnerable, not always in the form of angels with wings, but as quiet protectors with fur legs, and unmatched intuition. And when a spiritual threat rises, when the soul is exposed or the heart in danger, these protectors appear. Not for attention, not for reward, but for you. So don't ignore that persistent presence. Don't shoo away what might be divine intervention. Ask instead, what is it trying to protect me from? Because sometimes heaven doesn't send a voice. It sends a shadow, a silent guide, a dog who doesn't need words to warn you of what's coming. Padre Pio, canonized as Saint Pio of Pietrelcina, was not only known for his miracles, stigmata, and deep connection with God, he was also known for seeing beyond appearances. He believed that the material world was layered with spiritual dimensions, and in his view, animals were not simply beasts of burden or dumb creatures, as some theologians had described them. They were witnesses. They were often the first to perceive what the soul could not grasp. There are stories passed down in the friary of San Giovanni Rotondo of animals behaving strangely in Padre Pio's presence. One such tale tells of a dog that refused to walk past the chapel where Pio had just celebrated Mass. It stood still, trembling, staring at the closed doors. Another time, a wild animal wandered into the monastery gardens, only to lie peacefully at the priest's feet. Those who saw it said the animal's gaze was fixed, as if it recognized something sacred in him. Padre Pio didn't mock these occurrences. He accepted them. He once said, "Some souls are given voices, others are given silence, but all creation praises the Lord in its own way." To him, animals were part of God's design not just biologically, but spiritually. And some, especially dogs, were more attuned to invisible forces than most humans could ever be. He believed that dogs could sense the presence of evil and even warn or shield the faithful from temptation or demonic attacks. It wasn't superstition, it was faith in the Creator's ability to work through all creation. So when a dog keeps following you, when its presence feels more like protection than coincidence, maybe you're not being followed by an animal. Maybe you're being accompanied by a message that Padre Pio would have told you to listen to. Because to ignore such a sign might mean turning your back on something sent straight from heaven's watchful eye. When something unusual happens once, it's easy to dismiss. Twice, it makes you wonder. But when it happens again and again, it starts to feel like something else. If a dog keeps following you, different places, different times, it's no longer about coincidence. It's about discernment. Spiritual signs rarely shout. They whisper. And the soul must be quiet enough to hear them. So what might this sign be trying to tell you? Let's explore the possibilities. 1. Protection from unseen harm. As we've already seen, Padre Pio believed animals, especially dogs, could sense darkness long before humans could. If you're going through a season of anxiety, fear, or spiritual vulnerability, that dog may be standing between you and something else. You may not see what it's protecting you from, but your peace returning when it's near. That's a clue. 2. A call to pay attention. Repeated signs often mean you're being called to wake up. Maybe there's a decision you're avoiding, a truth you're running from, path you're meant to follow. And this loyal creature, it's a living interruption to your distractions. You may not hear God's voice in thunder, Padre Pio once said, but you might in the bark of a dog that shows up again. 3. A companion in loneliness. Heaven knows when your soul is breaking. Sometimes it sends comfort. And what better comfort than a quiet companion who never asks for anything in return? If you've recently felt abandoned, forgotten, or weighed down by grief, that dog might be more than an animal. It might be a reminder that you're not alone. 4. A message about your heart. Dogs are drawn to energy, to intention, to spirit. If dogs keep following you, it may be because there's something in your heart that calls them. Purity you've forgotten, a purpose you've neglected, or a light you're meant to carry. Sometimes the sign is not about the danger ahead, but the potential within. In spiritual traditions across the world, repetition means importance. God doesn't waste signs. If the dog comes once, it's interesting. Twice, it's a nudge. 3 times or more, it's a message written clearly in the language of loyalty, protection, and divine presence. So what should you do? You pause, you reflect, and you pray. Ask for discernment. Ask for clarity. And ask for the courage to listen, not with your ears, but with your soul. Because the next time those paws follow your steps, you may realize you're not just being followed, you're being guided. When signs appear, especially ones that repeat, the question isn't, is this real? The question is, what does this mean for me? Spiritual discernment is the process of tuning your inner voice to divine frequency. It's not about superstition. It's about spiritual attunement. So if a dog keeps following you, if it appears when you're alone, afraid, or uncertain, what should you do? 1. Pay attention to patterns. Does it happen at specific times or places? Do you feel a specific emotion when it occurs? Does the dog act protective, calm, or unusually focused? Patterns are the language of heaven. God rarely speaks in random chaos, but in meaningful repetition. 2. Reflect on your current season. Are you going through a difficult time? Have you been praying for a sign or for protection? Have you been avoiding something your soul knows is important? The presence of the dog might be the answer you've been waiting for. Not in words, but in presence. Not in clarity, but in comfort. 3. Seek spiritual confirmation. Pray. Meditate. Ask God, is this from you? And more importantly, what should I learn from this? The Bible says, ask and it shall be given. Seek and you shall find. Heaven doesn't always answer through thunder or dreams. Sometimes it answers through a gentle paw or a gaze that doesn't flinch. 4. Don't dismiss the messenger. Too often, we miss miracles because we expect them to look glorious. But what if heaven is humble? What if angels sometimes bark instead of sing? Padre Pio believed deeply in the power of silence, of subtlety, and of spiritual mystery. So when something follows you in silence, when it keeps appearing despite your doubts, don't chase it away. Maybe it's not just a dog. Maybe it's a whisper from God, waiting to be heard. Some messages don't arrive in words. They come quietly, on four legs, with eyes that speak without sound, with a presence that stays even after it's gone. If a dog has been following you again and again, don't dismiss it. Ask yourself, why now? Why me? Maybe it's protection. Maybe it's guidance. Maybe it's a reminder that even when the world forgets you, heaven doesn't. Padre Pio believed that God works in ways most people ignore. He said, the soul that listens quietly will hear everything. So, pause. Listen. Because in that soft breath beside you, in those paw steps echoing behind you, there may be something sacred unfolding. Maybe it's not just a dog. Maybe it's a message. Maybe you've been chosen to see what others overlook. And if this message reached you, if your heart felt something stir while hearing these words, then it wasn't an accident. It never is. If this message resonated with you, if you've ever felt followed by something more than an animal, leave it in the comments. Your story might help someone else understand their own. Share this video with someone who had a dog that changed their life. They might realize that the bond they felt was more spiritual than they ever imagined. You are not alone. And perhaps you never were. Because sometimes the eyes that follow you in silence are heaven's way of saying, I'm still here. And I sent a friend to remind you.